to the extraordinary meeting. Councillors, please. Silence. Councillors. I've received the following apologies, Councillor Williams and Councillor Guthrie. Do we have any further apologies? John Kerr. You want to code of conduct, declaration of interest. Do members have any interest they wish to declare? No. Item 3, review of the electoral cycle. Reports to the Chief Executive and Returning Officer. Proposed by Councillor Fitzsimmons and seconded by Councillor Brotherton. Can I ask Councillor Fitzsimmons to propose this report and Councillor Brotherton second it? The recommendations are in paragraph 11 of the report. Do any members wish to speak on this item?
I'll move it first, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nice to move. The arguments and benefits fallout or election by third are clearly set out in the report. They've already been discussed at length at two audit corporate governance committee meetings and at a previous council meeting. But in addition, all AMP elections, whether we have them by 57 or 58 members, allow for greater flexibility in the design of electoral wards. This will provide communities with place interest, better representation, for example, single, dual or triple membership wards, especially in the outer areas where communities will not be swallowed up by a one-size-fits-all 19-member ward council. With regard to 57 or 58 members, we believe that an additional member will assist in the drawing of new boundaries in those areas of the town where there have been increases in population. For example, Chapelford, Whittlehall, Sankey, Westport. I therefore move that this council reaffirms its previous decision to seek a 58-member local authority, and that for 2016, Warrington Borough Council moves to cycle all that elections every 4 years.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I rise to second the report and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be voting against whole council elections. I would vote for elections by thirds, simply because the savings would be minimal. There would probably be by-elections during that period anyway, so the cost will be quite minimal, I believe. Also, voting election by thirds would encourage councillors to keep going out into their wards and into their communities instead of sitting back for 3 years and waiting to go out then ready for the next election. I won't mention any names, but don't worry. So therefore, Mr. Mayor, I would encourage all members to support election by thirds to keep the democratic process going for that period.
Thank you. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Here's the thing. Often residents say that their elected politicians don't listen to what they have to say. Well, it's actually quite clear in this paper that 59% of those who responded to the consultation said that we should have all-out elections. And it's very simple. I am listening to those residents. I am listening very carefully to those respondents. And I'm supporting the majority there. And I should be voting on this motion, Mr. Mayor. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Barr. Sorry, Councillor Marks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My group supports the current arrangement of election by thirds. I have to say we see little merit in making a change, just as we see little merit in the previous decision to increase the number of councillors to 58. For Councillor Fitzsimmons to claim this will solve all our problems is really beyond belief. I just want to tell you a few main reasons we have for this view. First of all, continuity. A degree of continuity is important to retain the collective experience of councillors, particularly at a time of major political change. There is a risk of a large change in members as an all-out election, which could be disruptive to policy making. Secondly, accountability. Frequent voting allows the electorate to pass judgment on their councillors and hold them to account. They can pass judgment on what is happening on their council rather than have no power to change things in the short term. It forces councillors to engage with their electorate and keeps them on the ball. Thirdly, diversity of candidates. Independents and smaller parties should be encouraged to stand for council. Independents often stand on current local issues and there will be less likelihood of them standing if they have to wait for a 4-year cycle because the issue may have passed. Fourthly, young voters. All parties are concerned about the lack of voting by young people and their lack of engagement in the democratic process. All outs mean 18-year-olds who on average have to wait longer before they are able to vote for the first time, which is unfortunate. 5. Voting habit. Voting 3 years out of 4 is more likely to keep people in the habit of voting. 6. Meeting the electorate. Contact with residents to find out what issues are important to them is essential for good democracy and community leadership. This is more likely to happen with more frequent elections. 7. Transparent decision making. If an unpopular decision has to be made, it is tempting to do this in the first year after an all-out election, so people have forgotten about it by the next time they come to vote. This merely reinforces cynicism in politics, and it's much better if decision makers are open and transparent about the reason for making an unpopular decision. Election by thirds means there's less opportunity to hide a decision in this way. Now just turn to the issue of cost. It is true that less frequent elections will save money. However, over the 4-year cycle, this is less than £34,000 a year, which is a small price to pay for democracy. And even this may be an overstatement, because it's acknowledged that all-out elections are much more complex to administer and likely result in additional costs which have not been specified. There are a number of supposed advantages of all-outs. A mandate is said to be better for long-term decision making. We don't accept this because it's essential these days for councils to plan for the longer term and from year to year. Election fatigue says that frequent elections can lead to voter fatigue, and a marketing campaign by councils every 4 years may combat this. This may or may not be true, but it's surely the wrong way of approaching the problem. It's the task of we politicians to make people want to vote because they think it can make a difference, rather than be encouraged to do so simply by slick marketing. Simpler results. People find it easier to understand all-out elections, apparently. This is insulting to the electorate to imply they cannot understand annual elections. In fact, it could be argued that voting for just one candidate per party each year is easier to understand than voting for up to 3. And it's said to be cheaper for political parties. Less frequent elections cost less overall. Well, this may be true, but it is certainly not the value factor to consider for a decision by a public body. So, Mr. Mayor, I ask councillors to ignore what their whips might say and vote for what they believe. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I listened quite extensively to Councillor Marks. I'd like to just ask a question. If we have to stay by thirds, we have to have 19 equal wards, that's 57,000. That will be chaos. There'll be no coterminous boundaries, the communities in this town will not recognise where they live. How are you going to have 19 3-member wards? It's impossible. And I suspect, and I said this before to you, and you keep nodding your head or you keep shaking your head, the reason you don't want all-outs is because you can't get the troops. You Liberals are dying on your feet. You ain't got the troops. You can't get 19 members to stand, never mind 57. And if you have to have 50, if you have to have all-out elections, you're dead. You're dead anyway. But that is the real reason you're trying to say we want thirds, because you can't get the troops. And just answer the question: how can you divide 57 by 3 and have 3 19-member wards? How can you do that? You can't do it. It's impossible. We've got 2-member wards. We've got 1-member wards. We're talking about our communities and them recognising who their councillor is. You would destroy the communities that are there at the moment. And our increase of 1 recognises there's a problem within the west of the town, like Councillor Fitzsimmons says, and we need to redraw the boundaries there. But we cannot be constrained by having 19 3-member wards. That's near enough impossible to do. And I still say it's part of your troops, not having troops on the ground, that you're against all-out elections, because you can't get the numbers.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support Councillor Marks' position. We should be electing by thirds, because I think that the accountability that having to face the electorate every year puts on the council is enormously important, and we have had transitions over 2 or 3 years which have shown the direction of travel. Once people are in for 4 years, the lack of transparency and accountability has already been visible in this council, which is a large majority, will probably disappear altogether. I'm slightly concerned both with the statistical and geographical views of Councillor Kennedy and of the leader. I did spend part of my career working with people who deal with electoral districting. Electoral districting, when Councillor Leader is absolutely right, is difficult. It is difficult to get coterminous boundaries. However, if you were to ask people in this town which ward they're in, you'd be surprised by how few actually know, because the boundaries are already largely artificial. And as far as Councillor Kennedy is concerned, it is very touching that his belief in democracy extends to the 59% vote in favour of this association. And this is someone who's entirely satisfied when Mr Cameron walks into Downing Street, where only 25% of the electorate voted for his party. It's a form of democracy that the Conservatives are really quite keen on. But taking it down to 0.06% response rate, out of a population of 160,800, only 89 people responded. Firstly, it shows how little regard, how little interest our residents have in the way democracy operates in this town, which is really very, very sad. And my fear is, if we go to 4-yearly elections, that respect for democracy in this town will decrease even further. I'll be voting against the motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm really pleased that I followed on from Councillor Barr, because I absolutely, totally disagree with him. I think that if we go to all-out elections every 3 or 4 years, this will actually enhance democracy, in that it will increase turnout. In some of the wards where we have very low turnouts, that's some of our more inner wards, it's absolutely will increase turnout, because an election then, once every 4 years, will become an event. It will be something special. People will not have, as you refer to it, voter fatigue. I would say you can actually get voter boredom, because no sooner have they voted, we are very good in the Labour Party at getting our act together straight after an election, and we put out thank you letters and leaflets, and we start again at the next election. So they have a constant, as you say, stream of election leafleting going through and calls to vote. And I think it leads to a kind of, I wouldn't say apathy, but people just become bored. And I think once every 4 years will lead to enhanced turnouts. I'd love to look at that in a couple of years' time, taking in mind what we have now, and see that if this motion goes through, see what we actually achieve by going forward with that. So yes, I do think that will improve the democracy. And the other point I wish to make, in the last decade, 2,500 houses have been built on Chapelwood. I mean, we need another council. It's as simple as that.
Councillor Belden, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I seem to recall under your administration you were telling us that every penny counts. I can't believe, and Councillor Bennett's joined in with you, I can't believe that we've got people who are trying to dismiss 135k saving, even which does already allow for by-elections. 135k is an average of £35,000 a year saving from moving to an all-out election cycle. And if you pick up the budget report that we discussed in here 4 weeks ago, 1/3 of the savings proposals are 35k or less. We've done all the low-hanging fruit. We're looking at a whole raft of things that we can do to deliver the kind of savings that we need to, due to the financial position of this council. And I think it's, frankly, derogatory to residents, it's derogatory to this council to try and dismiss that level of savings when we're in the position that we are.
Thank you. Councillor Fitzsimmons.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Marks, despite what you think, I never promised you a rose garden. Chris points out that in May this year, Cheshire East and Cheshire West and Cheshire will be having all-out elections. Next year, Scotland, Wales, every London borough will be having all-out elections. 2017, the rest of the shires will be having all-out elections. I think if it's good enough for them, I'm sure it's good enough for us. You make the point of stability. Well, there is stability, isn't it, every 4 years? You make the point that some people are getting Downing Street 25% of the vote. Well, some people are getting Downing Street 25% of the vote because they make the Democrat Party put them there. And who's to say, even a coalition can be stable. I'm not going to shout at the moment, but at least they provide a stable government. Whether you like that government or not, everyone thought that the coalition wouldn't last. So I would have thought, actually, if you have an election every 4 years, I would have thought you would have put the argument forward that it would lead to more coalition administrations. You're in favour of that. So there are quite a few coalition administrations up and down the country, or minority administrations. So I would have thought, you might want to retract that. We have a 5-year parliament. I know that you want annual votes. I think it was the Charters, wasn't it, 1846, something like that. They went down there to parliament demanding. I can't remember who it was. I remember reading they got the handsome cab and took the petition to Parliament before he got arrested. You can't have elections every 12 months and then say we want stability when you know that you can't carry out a 4-year programme. You're actually looking at best, a 3-year programme with a government budget. And at any point, somebody else might come in and say, well, we're not having that. It was a change of administration. You also made reference to stability of membership. And I think the average figure used to be that all-out elections, about a third of members would be replaced every 4 years. And it's about that on average anyway, as you go through a cycle by thirds. And I would suggest that a third of new members every 4 years, well, that is a very good argument for a very good programme, development programme. At the moment, we seem to have 2 or 3 members changing hands, 2 or 3 new members. It's not good enough to develop a programme, so it doesn't happen. Whereas every 4 years, you can say, right, this is a new council, let's all get some training done, look forward. It's a good opportunity. With regard to the 58 members, as I say, it's not our decision, that one. It's the commissioners. They may say, well, you're not laying out an argument for 57. For 58, you're having 57. 57 or 58, we're going to say all-out elections is the way forward. And you might, I'm sure that next May, you'll be out there campaigning, hoping that you win. And you never know. You might. Great things happen. I mean, as Councillor Walker said, you might have a Labour government. As I said to him, you never know, it might be a popular Labour government. So we'll see. 12 months all to play for, you never know, things will happen. So vote for this.
Councillors, remind members that a 2/3 majority of those votes is required. Could I put this matter to the vote, please? All those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? Abstentions? It is carried in accordance with the rules. Having said that, I declare the meeting closed and thank you for your attendance. I wish you a safe journey home.